What's going on, world? Welcome to another edition of the Black Mental Health Podcast. I am your host, Reg. Joined today with me is family. Again, I told y'all this year I'm going to distinct between family and special guests because I can vouch for these individuals and their work and what they do and their passion behind it. I can see it day to day. So I definitely going to let you know when family is here, and I stand by them and the movement that they are a part of or have started. And so I don't introduce people, Shar. I don't want to miss a credential. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sounds good. Well, first of all, thank you for bringing me as a guest. Truly family for sure. But my name is Charlotte Andrews. I am a licensed psychotherapist, licensed behavior specialist in Philadelphia. I have a private practice called Journey to Lotus LLC, in which, we provide a number of therapeutic interventions and services to individuals seeking mental health treatment. Um, I am also a professor of psychology at a college. So I teach, I do clinical supervision and professional development. I have a lot of interns. I think training for therapists is so important and is so needed. So that's the area in which I'm going in. And I just have a passion for mental health. I have a passion for mental health. I have a passion for people. And so, I love this field. It's fitting for me. And I do have a law degree as well, but we can talk about that later.
I had a question that I wanted to write down, so we're gonna get into it. So, how did
Mhm.
you get into the mental health field? Like, where did that even start? How did that bug you? Because and I'm asking for myself because I'm at that stage where I'm going back to school to finish my degree, and I know I've been
Okay.
good with like again I'm a huge passion of mental health, but I also know uh my part of me wants to get more people within the field, and so I'm
Yeah.
using this like as a platform as well of like, all right, let me bring more people, like let you hear from people of color and then bring more people. So I'm still stuck in between that. So how did you decide? You went from law to, you get what I mean? So I'm in that space right now. Like
Yeah. Yeah, first of all, psychology has always been something, a field that I was always interested in as a child.
Mm,
But actually, I wanted to be a lawyer
mm,
first. So one of the reasons why when I went to undergrad, I majored in psychology because I felt like as an attorney, um, it is imperative that I learn about people, that I learn about what motivates people's behaviors. I had not necessarily decided whether at that time I was going to, be on a prosecution side, whether I was going to be on the defense side. I just knew I wanted to be in the field of law, and
mm,
that regardless of what side I'm on, I need to understand what motivates people's behaviors
mm.
and everything about that. So I majored in psychology in undergrad. I ended up after my first semester pursuing a double major in psychology and social work.
Mm.
So I was a double major for like a good year and a half before a very close mentor of mine was just like, "Why? Like, sure, why? You're majoring in psychology and social work, like they're kind of like the same thing." Now,
Mm.
I understood where they were coming from at that time. Now, reflecting on it, but they're really not the same thing. They are definitely relatable,
Mm,
but when it comes to, and you'll find this, as you're talking to people, there's a different perspective that individuals like myself who practice within the field of psychology, and then those that practice within the field of social work,
mm,
they overlap, but we have very different experiences.
mm,
Um, Even when it comes to just navigating those two fields, social work is a very linear kind of standardized type of field where you'll find psychology is much more adaptable,
mm,
much more fluid.
mm,
So it's very interesting how that goes. So at the helm of that conversation with my mentor, I ended up dropping my social work major, finishing out early actually because I had taken so many classes, my
wow.
psychology major. And the goal, of course, was to go to law school after undergrad. Unfortunately, life totally got in the way. After I graduated from undergrad, I have a cousin who has been addicted to drugs for some time. She has 7 children, and at this time she was on baby number 6. And one day, she's my first cousin actually, and she had been going through a couple things. I had been there for her the entire time she was pregnant. She was incarcerated while she was pregnant. She got out. I went with her to all her appointments, and I was there at the birth of this child. So I was pretty much there for her. And one day she called me a couple months. He was like 2.5 months old, and she was like, "Sure, I'm really stressed out. I'm overwhelmed. Can you watch the baby for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was my baby. I'm sure." And I never saw her again. Picked the baby up, never saw her again. So at this point, 21 years old, I had just got out of college. I'm staying with my mom. I went to college in North Carolina, so I came back home, and now I got this baby, and I'm just, stuck trying to figure things out. So I had not expected her to leave. So I ended up going through everything, calling the cops, calling DHS, doing all that stuff. I apologize. So unfortunately, DHS wasn't really helpful for me. And after talking to her mother, which is my aunt, who had taken all of her other children at that point, I ended up keeping him as my own. I kept him. I went filed for custody. Well, initially I didn't. I think there was some form of thing in my head like, okay, she's going to come back. I'm going to just keep him for now, And so about 8 months later, I ended up actually driving through, an area that she often frequents, not on purpose, but, it's my hood, So I'm going through and I see her. And I pull over, I run up on her. "Yo, did you forget you had a kid? Like, where you been?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." At that point, obviously she had relapsed. And I was like, "Listen, get in the car right now. I'm gonna take you to rehab right now so you can come get your son."
Right.
And she was like, "No," and walked away from me. And when she did that, at that point, I was like, "Dang, I'm about to have this kid forever." So I went filed for custody. I got custody of him, and pretty much raised him as my own child. At 21, I had no kids, and he'll be 13 in August.
Wow.
So this was 13 years ago. Aside from that, a lot has transpired between that situation. So that'll be a whole nother story. But in the meantime, I was trying to figure out, okay, what now? Because law school had to be put on the back burner because now I got a child I got to take care of. So I found that I had to work, to take care of him. So I did take the LSAT. I didn't really do that well. I still applied to law school. I applied to maybe 6 or 7, got rejected. I'm not a good standardized test taker. So, I'm like, okay, well, I can't be idle. So at the time I was working at Belmont Hospital in the adolescent unit, which is, a psych hospital for adolescent and adults, but I was in the adolescent unit. And one of my coworkers at the time was at Holy Family. And she was getting her master's in clinical mental health counseling. Now, my goal was never to be a counselor. I didn't come into this. My goal was to be a lawyer, So I'm like, okay. So she was like, I was like, listen, I don't want to take any tests because I knew that getting a master's degree meant I had to take the GRE. So she was like, "Nah, what's your GPA?" And I told her what my GPA was. She was like, "Nah, when you have a high GPA, they waive the exam. All you got to do is apply." Like, cool. So I applied to Holy Family, got into Holy Family, and got my master's in clinical mental health counseling. And it kind of just went from there, like a whole nother, life kind of started for me at that point when it came to pursuing being a psychotherapist. So what the law came back after, a little while, because I ended up getting a job at the public defender's office in their mental health unit
Wow.
as a paralegal.
It kept popping up all throughout your
It
life.
kept popping up. It just kept popping up. So I get this job, and it's crazy like how God works. So, I'll go on the interview. I had never been a paralegal before, never worked in the legal realm, so I didn't know what to expect. But got the job the same day. I left there. Okay, we're gonna give you a call. I couldn't even get in my car before they were calling me back and say, you know what, we're gonna give you a chance. You want to come in? I'm like, yeah. Best job to date. Besides being in private practice, best job I ever had in my life. Pennies. Best experience though, right? So I started working in the mental health unit, and what I realized, and I was in grad school at this time, what I realized was that those lawyers who would be coined mental health attorneys was learning psych as they went. They knew the law, right? They were learning the psych part. I was reverse. The psych part, learning the law, right? And I said, it would be very interesting here if I practice mental health law. And that is where the spark came. Defense mental health law, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be an advocate for individuals who have severe mental illness, who are incarcerated and only recidivize due to instability, usually nonviolent offenders, often. And that's kind of where that went. And so I graduated from grad school, got my license, took the LSAT 2 more times, and still didn't get into law school, right? Wow. So I'm like, oh my God, maybe this is not meant to be. I said, if I ever go to law school again, it got to be hybrid. I'm going online. And so, I hadn't expected that to actually happen. There were online law schools, but you had to practice in the state where the law school was. They weren't accredited by the ABA, which is the American Bar Association. So I didn't have the ability to practice. Then lo and behold, at the time, it was Mitchell Hamlin Law School developed a program, a hybrid program for adults.
Everything is just key for I'm listening.
This was just like
the pathway is just clearing up for
a year later. I am reading a journal from the Princeton Journal or something. And they're like, William Mitchell, because it was William Mitchell, now it's Mitchell Hamlin because they merged. But William Mitchell Law School, first law school in the United States, offering a hybrid program accredited by the ABA. Like, what? So, of course, I'm on it, I'm looking, right? And I'm like, dang, okay, I'm not taking the LSAT again. What I'm going to do, I'm gonna just apply with everything I had, because your scores are good for a longer period of time. I already had recommendations. I was just like, I'm gonna just go ahead and apply. I'm gonna see what happens. Mind you, the school is in Minnesota. Never been to Minnesota in my life. I apply, I get in, I get a scholarship.
Wow.
And that was all she wrote. Went to law school, graduated. Now the bar is in the way. But, it's just like I get closer and closer. But did go to law school, did graduate. And, here I am. And that's pretty much how, psychology, as far as psychotherapy is concerned, kind of came to my life. So, at this point, the goal, once the law thing is squared away, which is not a hindrance to what I want to do anyway, I want to focus on reintegration and reintegrating individuals, nonviolent offenders, back into the community in order to decrease the recidivism in that particular population. Yeah.
You jam-packed that, Char, with so much information, and I definitely will be reaching out as far as because I'm starting to try to get these, these hot button topics that always come up, and I feel like you need to have like an expert person on it, especially with certain things. So recidivism is definitely one. But you talked early on about being a mom, and how was that? So I'm asking this question because I'm 29, I'll be 30 in May. And so
Okay.
one of the early realizations that I had, I wanted to help, I wanted to do so much, but I realized I didn't have the resources and tools to help someone, for one. And then the second one was, you can only help people that want to help themselves. You know what I mean? You could be an aid and assist in it, but you can't, do the work for someone else. And
Mm-hmm.
so what advice, experience to all the helpers out there, you know what I mean, that want to, especially coming from that therapeutic background, especially from that personal experience of your cousin, like what advice would you have out there? Because I know that plays a lot on it. For me, it was depressing realizing when I realized, I'm like, man, I can't really help nobody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it just like it got me for a little bit, and it started to hurt my heart until I started to find a place of, all right, well, I'll let you go into it first.
Yeah. Uh, you know, it's interesting that you ask me this because, that is kind of where my practice is going, focusing on the helper. Because it's just like, who helps the helper at the
Mm,
end of the day? I think, a lot of times when it comes to therapists, people who are getting services forget that they're actually still people.
mm,
We kind of have like this superpower aura a little bit, but it's just like, no, we're still people. But
mm,
I even think outside of my therapy hat, just as a person like yourself who likes helping people, and then you avail yourself to those individuals, and it's just like you don't really see any movement, you don't see any
mhm,
progress, there it's discouraging, right?
mhm,
Especially when it's a person that you love. First and foremost, just from my own personal experience, I had to tell the helper to help themselves first. Be cognizant of your need first. Don't ignore the fact that you want to help this person or these people, whoever they are in your life, and that you want to see them succeed, you want to see them well. Don't ignore that. Yeah, sit in it, but you start to accept that that's not your role. Your role is not to change them. Your role is to support them change themselves.
mhm,
Sometimes that role is not always hands on. Sometimes it's from back here.
mhm,
And being able to identify what that looks like for you. It is a personal experience. It is a personal thing. You can only identify the boundaries for yourself, because I'm telling you, and this is no shade to any particular situation because I have stories for days, but I tell you, you will kill yourself in the process of trying to help a person that at that time
mhm,
don't want it. They might want it and can't tell you or communicate that they want it or need it. There's so many different things there. But it's just
mhm,
like, you can only do but so much
mhm,
without losing who you are. So it's really being able to, help yourself and knowing what role you play in a person's life. And when you've had enough, you know, um, that is just like one of the things that I've identified there, especially when it comes to boundaries. And I know everybody like is makes fun of me a little bit when it comes to sure is the boundary queen, but you know what? It's the truth. Because the boundaries is not for the other person, it's for me.
for
Right? I
yourself.
can't
Mhm,
make anybody, enforce the boundaries are for me. I set them
mhm,
for myself and you enforce them for yourself, not for the
mhm,
other person, because a boundary is like an expectation. We don't want to put expectations on people. We'll
mhm,
always be disappointed. They're for you. So the moment you allow somebody, to cross something that you said for yourself, you can't. I mean, the onus is on you. People only do what
mhm,
you allow them to do. So it's just, making sure that you remain as healthy as possible. And it's hard. It's hard, especially when it's people that you love. It's difficult.
mhm,
Own that difficulty,
mhm,
own that challenge. This is hard. I'm feeling really bad about not answering this phone. Speak
mhm,
it. The more you kind of get it out and then process it with yourself as to why, and then process it with your support system, you'll be okay. You'll come around. It's not instantaneous, but you'll come around to like, okay, I gotta take care of myself.
yeah, that was like one of the biggest transitions that I had. And I mean, I'm probably a year or two off from it. Being one of the biggest things that like affected me like mentally, like you said, when you see the phone and it's like, man, I know this person is in need, but I know what the next steps will be, and they're not going to be in any of our favors. And I
Mhm.
just wasted time and energy. They just wasted time and energy. And mind you, this could be friends, loved ones, it could be
Yeah,
any, but it always hurt.
strangers.
Yeah, yeah. That it almost for a minute stopped me from wanting to help like homeless people that I seen. I'm like,
Mm,
you know what I mean? Like
yeah, I
it
can
just
dig it.
went deep. But no, you just helped somebody today. I know you did.
I hope so.
One of the things you talked about earlier was how you had to take over being a mother at an early age. Um,
Yeah.
mentally, it's a two-part question. I know you'll get to both because you're great at that. How are you able to now recently with your newborn child divide up your time between the two and making sure they get the adequate amount of attention, and then also uh dealing with all the things you have to give your energy and time to as far as business wise as far as
Mm,
yourself, and balancing being a mommy and everything as well.
mm.
And I know it was a loaded question too.
Oh, right. You are hitting hard today because let me tell you something. It's a struggle day to day. I don't have right now the good recipe. I'm actually in the process of still figuring out some things when it comes to my time management. Because listen, I'm not only a mom, I'm a wife too. And
Mhm,
so that too, you know, take like trying to find a balance is my goal as soon as possible. And
mhm,
it's one that I'm constantly working on. As far as the children are concerned, so I actually have three children. So I have the baby that I just had who's
mhm,
6 months. I have a 4-year-old. And
mm,
then of course I have the 12-year-old.
mhm,
So let me talk about the 12-year-old really quick because this is a whole nother situation where, you know, I'm sure will trigger, you know,
mhm,
certain responses from people.
mhm,
But this is much more common than people think, I'm sure.
mhm,
So the 12-year-old right now is in a group facility.
mhm.
He struggled and continues to struggle throughout his life with behavior issues.
Was that the same
Um,
child from your cousin or no? Okay,
mhm,
okay.
yeah. You know, so prior to her being incarcerated, she was on drugs,
Mhm,
pregnant. Then she became incarcerated, and then, you know, she had him. So with that said, you know, ultimately the damage was done at that point. Not to
mhm,
say, you know, there are some things that he personally is not working through in general. You have the abandonment, you have all of these other dynamics. You know, remember he's child number 6, right? And
mhm,
so there's so many different things going on, and this one after him. But unfortunately, some of his mental issues, his challenges were due to drug use in utero.
mhm,
So he struggled with behavior issues his entire life.
mhm.
When he turned 5, the courts gave him back to his mom, and she recently relapsed in 2017,
Mhm,
and I got him again.
mhm,
And uh, since then, of course, in that time frame, I got married. I had my
mhm,
4-year-old, got him back. It just was a very unstable situation. And I don't care how much, let me tell you, and let me tell everybody else out here. I don't care how much training you got, how much training you have, what you might know clinically. When I'm in my house, I'm not clinical.
mhm.
I'm a person. I'm a
Human.
person. I'm a woman. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. And as much as I attempt to utilize my skills with my children,
Mhm,
it's hard.
mhm,
It is so difficult. And he was just so challenging for
mhm,
whatever reason. We know the reasons. There are many reasons. He was
mhm,
just experiencing so many challenges. I had to 302 him a couple times.
mhm,
And on that last time that he was 302, it ended up being so pervasive that they ended up keeping him. He's actually been, you know, in a hospital setting since December of 2019.
mhm,
And he has not been out since. So he went from psychiatric hospital to the group facility he's in right now. And I must say, he's doing well. He's doing very well, way better than he is now. So I have what you would consider a child who has, pervasive type needs. I don't want to put him under special needs, right? Mm-hmm. But, it took a lot of time from my other child, mm-hmm. because I'm at the meetings, I'm at the school, I'm at the detentions, mm-hmm. I'm at all of this. I'm going to the therapy every week. I'm going to the psychiatrist for medication management. Then I still got this 4-year-old. Then I get pregnant. Mm. It's just like, oh my God. Then I'm still supposed to manage my private practice and still get my husband some attention and still be social. A lot of constraint. A lot of constraint. There were many days where I had a whole meltdown. I had a meltdown not too long ago. So it's like it never freaking ends. I am learning how to manage it all. A part of me learning how to manage it all is learning that I can't manage it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just coming to the realization, and I don't even know, I can't even tell you, just to be just up front, I can't even tell you I've accepted the fact that I can't manage it all, but I'm considering that it's a possibility that I might not be able to. I'm just not there yet, because I feel, time is of the essence for me. There's so much that I want to do. It's just like, sure, why not? Why can't you? So I'm like putting all of these little efficiency type tasks in place. Okay, let me get an online calendar. Let me do this. Let me do that, to try to see if I can fit this and that in this person, this group. I don't know what it's going to take for me to get to the place where, sure, you can't. You gotta prioritize. Pick a goal a year. Don't pick 10. I'm not there. And that's just my truth. I just feel like I can. I'm glad I have a supportive family and just a supportive tribe that allows me to do some of the crazy things that I do. But I don't know. I still don't know how I manage it all. What I have done and actively done, though, is put some self-care time in place. I've never done it before. So when I close my computer, it's closed. When I take 3 and 4 and 5 days off, I don't do anything. So I try to spend time with my kids. I try to, go out with my husband. And of course, Corona's been in the way, but we've been creative and innovative and doing things in the house, but I try to unplug. I'm not perfect at it, but I do it now more often than I used to. And then just being more comfortable with saying no. No, I can't make it. No, I can't do it. It was very difficult for me. But I'm learning that, for those that really care and love me, they know if I say no, I really can't do it. And being okay with that and not feeling guilty about it. So I'm a work in progress there.
Aren't we all? It's funny that you said that, because I just came to one of the realizations. I was getting anxiety and just a lot of things that I want to do and get done. I just had to cut everything off, because I'm like, I want to get all this stuff done and I need to stop everything so that way I can figure out how to get everything done. And so that was causing me stress on that end. But when I'm in the midst of getting all of it done, it was stressful trying to go this place, that place. I more recently learned that I'm more comfortable getting 7 out of 10 things done as opposed to trying to figure out how to get all 10 things done.
That's like a good point.
I just came to that realization. All right, I want to do 10, but if I get 7 out of them or even 6 out of them, it's better than me sitting there letting everything just fall by the wayside and getting nothing done.
You know what? Let me write that down real quick, because listen, can I tell you, I'm not, you see, I got my pencil and pen. Let me write that, because you know what? I'm looking for efficiency. And it's just like, if I could go here and write a little to-do list from the day to day and 7 is too big for, I feel like if I put 7, like, let me put 10, let me put 15. I know myself, right? But you're right.
every day,
Get,
and I
get what
look
you
at
can
it
get
too.
done.
Like it's like, all right, I'm going to attempt these many things, but if it's better than trying to figure out how to get all 10 done.
Baby, oh my God. Can I tell you? Let me tell you the feeling that I just got when you said that. Can I share the feeling I got? The feeling I got when you just said that to me about, prioritizing and being okay with getting what you did. At least you got some of it done. Is the same way I felt when one of our providers at Blackman Hill was like, you can schedule emails to go out, right? I don't
That
know
was a
what
game
it
changer.
was.
That
Oh my
was
God.
a game changer.
Oh my Like, that's not even funny though, but it's like you do have no idea what type of burden. It was just like, oh my God, no, I didn't know. I'm not a tech savvy person by any means. Like I can learn. But when she said that, you have to see my email right now. I have like 30 emails all in the
already
schedule.
wait.
I was just like, it was a game changer. I was like,
Biggest
oh
game
my
changer.
God.
Because
Oh
I
my
used to
God.
get overwhelmed, Shar, when I'm like, all right, well, I don't want to text them too late. I don't want to email them too late. And then it's the weekend. Though I'm making all these emails right now, 11 o'clock at night to go out 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday or whatever. So that was a game changer.
Yo. And so like I just had that same like exuberant energy. And it might be small to some,
It's big.
but for a person like me, it's gold. And it's just like, I'm going to apply it. Hopefully the next time I check in with you, I'm just like, yo, you truly like that. It is. I'm hoping it changed my life. Yeah, I have to be consistent with it though. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to try because I think that's an awesome idea. I don't know why I never considered it.
Because we try to fit everything in. And so when you try to fit everything in, you almost be like mad at yourself. But it's like you actually get more if you just focus on getting as much out the day.
That part. Yes. So, oh wow. That's crazy.
And mind you, I just came to that. It was like, oh man, I even talked to Taz. Being honest, I'm like, Taz, I don't know, man. I can't. It's so many things that I got to get done and And then I was like, whereas you could just apply the most and just get enough done. It's still better than zero. Like it's all still better.
Listen, and it's crazy because of course therapeutically, I could tell a client that. I could tell a client, listen, getting something done is better than not getting anything done. I have a task list, that I did attempt to prioritize Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but I have not been following it by any means. I think it needs to look different for me. And I think when you said it, how you said it, for some reason, it just sounded different because what you said is not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing. And so, I mean, yeah, you're right.
I'm with you.
You're right.
On a brighter note as well, with like you do something different with mental health, and I don't want to say different because it's not. It doesn't get as highlighted. I think more recently we're getting highlighted with hemp and CBD. It's a more recent thing that people are starting to accept with mental health treatment and having these different outlets to also cure some of these things or help manage. I don't even say cure, help manage. And so talk to me about all right, so I'm a blank state on CBD, so I have no clue of CBD. I only know about hemp because my uncles are Rastafarian and they always talked about hemp, and I know it's used for different things. So talk to me about CBD, talk about hemp and how it works with mental health.
Yes. So, oh my goodness, CBD is going to be. It is a game changer right now. You can't talk about CBD without talking about cannabis because CBD is cannabis. At the end of the day, that's what it is.
How is it cannabis? Break it down to me. How is CBD cannabis?
Okay, so of course you have. First of all, you start off with the plant cannabis. Okay. So you have cannabis, which is a plant. There are different variations, different types of species of cannabis. But you have cannabis, and then there are two particular main derivatives of cannabis: CBD and marijuana. Okay. Marijuana is the cannabis that, people are more familiar with. Marijuana contains THC, which is that psychoactive property in marijuana that gets a person high.
Okay.
Then you have CBD, which comes from, that hemp derivative of cannabis, and it has no THC at all. So it doesn't have those psychoactive properties that marijuana has, which is why it's legal. So some of the things, CBD just became legal in 2014. Okay. Because it was a part of, cannabis and marijuana, and of course marijuana being a Schedule I drug, it wasn't legal to use. So what happened in 2014 is that some scientists at the FDA developed a drug from CBD to assist with children who had epilepsy, very severe seizures. And so this is the only CBD drug that is actually approved by the FDA. So when they made this drug, and they approved this drug, it was just like, okay, so basically, like, is this something that, we can kind of utilize and maximize in other ways? So in 2014, the Farm Bill passed, and it's not the same Farm Bill as 2018, but in 2018, it became federally legal for you to utilize CBD as long as it has 0.3% or less THC in it. Okay. So anything 0.3% or less is legal on a federal level. Okay. So that's just a little of the legal aspect of CBD. So there are different types of CBD. You have broad spectrum, full spectrum, then you have a hybrid. Broad spectrum CBD is totally 0% THC free. No traces of THC at all. That's a broad spectrum. A full spectrum does have THC in it. Full spectrum kind of gives you that entourage effect. So it had what we consider an entourage effects where it has THC and CBD, and they're both kind of interacting with each other. Okay. So it's likely that you will, of course, it's going to be a bit of a different experience than if you had 0% THC or broad spectrum CBD. And then you have like your hybrids, which basically are cross strains of the cannabis plant. So, the basic cannabis plants, the sativa, indica, it gets very, very complex when you start to, get into the various strains of cannabis, because they actually have different functions. Sativa is more of, the clarity strain. It kind of gives you energy. It gives you,
uppers and the downers.
Clarity, focus, right? And the indica is what puts you down. So it just really depends. And I, of course, am still educating myself because there's so much education to be had about it, especially when it comes to CBD. I'm actually attempting to pursue a study, active study in CBD, because there are not a lot of studies. There's studies coming out, but there's not enough, because it's just so new. A lot of people don't want to, they're still kind of scared to get into that realm because like you're still talking about a drug, so to speak. But if we look at CBD as a plant, we look at cannabis like a plant, like any plant, because I do take a plant over pills model. And educate ourselves, we'll find that CBD is extremely helpful in managing a lot of not only just mental health concerns, but even physical concerns as well. So one of the reasons I got into CBD, I was never a smoker, still not a smoker per se. I'm a ingestible kind of person. So I'll eat my CBD, I'll eat my gummies, I'll do that. You might see me smoke a pre-roll here and again, depending on where I'm at. But other than that, I was never really interested in like, drugs or anything like that. So one of my clients struggled. I had diagnosed her with ADHD. And as an adult, she went undiagnosed as a child. And so it started coming up in her adult life, and I evaluated her, and she ended up having ADHD, and it was really, really bad, really bad. But she did not want to get on medication. She is an EMT. And of course, my first thought is like, okay, well, you could get a medical marijuana card, but because of her work, she can't, she can't get a medical marijuana card. So I'm like, okay, let me figure something out for you. I gotta think, because I don't know. I had talked about the whole essential oils. So we were trying to incorporate some essential oils like lemongrass and lavender, into her daily, lighting her candles and putting her oils. Like we're trying to do all of that, giving her different exercises, but it did not help. So in researching, what are some literally I put in Google, what are some ways to treat ADHD in adults for people who don't want meds? And CBD was the first thing to pop up. So I was like, CBD. So I'm like, click it. Okay, what is CBD? And CBD stands for cannabidiol. And I started reading and I'm like, oh, snap. Okay. So that's kind of where the interest peaked for me when it came to CBD. And so I told her about it. She was like, well, do you have some? And I'm like, no, I don't, but let me see if I can get you some. So I started to research, okay, how can you wholesale CBD? Can you wholesale it? This is where, I started to learn that it was legal. And, this is where I'm getting all of my education. So I became a wholesaler for CBD, sold her some CBD. And then before you knew it, a lot of my clients was just like, well, I'm trying to get off this med and I'm trying to do this. I have pain management issues. This is, really having an effect on my life. And it kind of went from there. And so a lot of my clients who worked in, I would say law enforcement areas can't use anything, any drug-based things, and CBD pretty much helped, manage some of the anxiety and symptoms that they were experiencing. And so what ended up happening was my god sister, who was a best-selling author, was selling CBD as well. I didn't know that, but she found out I was from probably a post or something I put up. It's like, yo, why don't we sell CBD together? And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. And so, we ended up, fusing that together and starting Elevated High Co. LLC, which is a CBD company, in which we sell and educate people on CBD and some of the benefits that CBD has in managing not only mental health but pain management. Because a lot of my clients now that come to Elevated High Co is for pain management and sleep. It's not even for mental health. It's pain management and sleep. Seem to be who we attract the most. And then, those individuals who have other mental health challenges. And I mean, when you think of your pain management and sleep, it does affect your mental health, because if you're in consistent pain, how are you thinking? How are you managing your day-to-day? How are you going to work? How are you sleeping? So it's definitely intertwined with each other. And that's kind of how that came about. So just recently, Journey to Lotus, my practice is expanding a bit, and I'm transitioning out of my role as a therapist to do clinical supervision and professional development full time. Because I can't leave therapy 100%, and I love group therapy work, I developed Hemp and Heal. And Hemp and Heal is a group therapy program in which you come to therapy as a group. I have sessions every Tuesday at the Soul Garden, which is a healing space. And we utilize hemp in CBD in therapy. So, we have smoke sessions. If you want to smoke while we're, having therapy, you can smoke, you can pop your gummies, use topicals, and I always introduce, a product that Elevated High Co has, so you get, samples of it, within the therapy realm, and you can use it, and it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Yeah. So
Now that was again, you just educated me on it because I knew nothing about it. And I think that's the first. Mind you, we were supposed to been through this interview, and it's partially on me because I never follow up. She's the busy person, and so I was supposed to been follow up. She done sent me the dates, and I'm sure they got filled up if by me not responding, because she got so much stuff to do. And so I preface that by saying that because I tried CBD. I tried like the
Ah,
Martha Stewart got a brand. I went to
yes, she does.
I got some of the gummies. First of all, I didn't know what the I wish I had it in front of me right now, but what the potency, they was like, do you want this one, or that? I didn't know what that meant. So I picked like the middle. I'm like, all right, the middle should be cool for me. Um
Uh-huh.
I picked the middle of the gummies, but that's what my question come in at. I didn't feel anything and I didn't know what to look for to feel, because you know what I mean? So I didn't know
Yeah.
anything. I wasn't educated about it, but I knew we
Yeah.
were having this conversation. So I was like, let me try it so that I can tell her my experience with it.
Yeah. See, the thing, it's a little tricky because everybody's body's chemistry is different,
Mhm.
right? So we have an endocannabinoid system. These are the receptors in our system that attach to the chemicals in whether it's marijuana, CBD, whatever, cannabis we're utilizing at that time. So when it comes to CBD in any, like for example, coffee can keep me up, but Pepsi, not at all. It's just like, but for my husband, he's bouncing off the walls. And it's a difference in how your body chemistry reacts to anything that you put in your body. And unfortunately, right now, first of all, CBD is not regulated by the FDA at this time.
Mhm.
The only thing that is regulated by the FDA is that medication that they approved for children who
Mhm.
have pervasive epilepsy.
Mhm.
So that's one of, I don't want to say issues, but kind of one of the challenges that we have in regards to some of these companies developing, you know, CBD products and, just making sure what you're getting. And, we could talk about that later. So, when it comes to potency, when it comes to, how many milligrams of CBD am I supposed to take? It varies. For one, I think you should evaluate why you're taking the CBD.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. Why
Mhm.
are you taking CBD? Why do you want to take it? So I think that's the first question a person should ask for themselves, because when people come to me and inquire as to CBD products, the first thing I'm asking them is what's your challenge, what you struggling with? Do you want it just for regular health and wellness? Are you trying to fix something? Because then that diverts me to an optimal cocktail that may work for them, for like a better description. So I know based on our products, if somebody is having issues with sleep, I automatically know to either offer them our CBD gel tabs with melatonin or our gummies, because that's what people use. Now, I kind of experienced the same thing that you experienced a little bit. I have gummies. Gummies don't put me to sleep.
Mhm.
They do not put me to sleep, but I take them for pain management. I have
Mhm.
sciatica really bad. So if I'm on my feet a long time, or if I've been like working out or whatever, and my back start to hurt, when I pop a gummy or two, I'm cool. But as
Mhm.
far as going to sleep, it doesn't do it for me. So
Mhm.
I think knowing that, first of all, you can't overdose on CBD. That's number
Mhm.
one. You cannot overdose on CBD. You can utilize as much or as little CBD as you want. So it's a possibility that maybe in that particular instance, you needed more than what you took. Do I say take the whole jar? No. We kind of got to figure that out.
Mhm.
Maybe the gummies are not efficient for you, but the oil might be, or a gel tab might be, or some other form of CBD may work for you. So it really just knowing what kind of works for you. What your body chemistry is. I cook with CBD, so I make butter. Sometimes I'll plop some butter in my food. Just
Mhm.
I have CBD sugar that I make, flour, so you can cook with it. And I just do it for regular health and wellness kind of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, besides my pain management issue, but that may have been the issue. Maybe you needed a little bit more than you took at the time, or just like a stronger milligram. It's a
Yeah,
possibility too.
so what happened was I thought we were gonna have the interview when we first scheduled it. So I was like, all right, because I was supposed to buy from you. That's who I was going to buy, so that way I could say
Okay.
like I try. So, but I'm like, I'm not about to bother Shard. This I'm right here at the mall. Let me just grab it just to try it so I can talk
Yeah.
about the experience. And so the reason why I was taking it, because I just stopped. And people know from the podcast that I got a mental health team, or I fired my mental health team. Let me say that I had a couples counselor, a psychiatrist, and a therapist, and I just felt like I needed to change my team up. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I'm a free
Mhm.
agent right now, but I had to change the team up. But I was diagnosed, or am diagnosed, with major depression disorder. an unspecified case of anxiety, and then they're monitoring from me for PTSD because of my car accident. And
Okay.
so I was trying to so I was taking I can't remember the names right now.
Hmm.
Buroful, some with a B.
Okay.
And something else. And I just didn't feel in control of my body no more. So I just stopped taking
Mm,
it. I'm like, all right, I'm feeling drowsy, I'm feeling sleepy. I got so again, we talked earlier about having so much to do. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm just gonna stop taking it. And plus I
Yeah.
didn't want to come on a podcast and not, have I'm just drowsy while I'm having these
Yeah.
conversations, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so I'm like, I'm done taking it. So I'm like, all right, I gotta find some alternative because it was helping. Even though I was sleepy, I was able to it'll calm me down so that way I can, process everything, get everything done. I'm not as
Right.
overwhelmed with anxiety with certain things. So I definitely wanted to find alternatives and replacements. And then I think you again I heard about CBD, but you was the first person to break it down and to really like give research and give all the knowledge and game behind it. So that's exactly why I wanted to have you on to get this experience, to get this knowledge. And I
Mhm.
now that I know who to go to, I'm like, all right, this is what I try. So I can show you the bottle. And I'm like, I was popping two. Then I'm like, all right, let me do four. And then it's like, it's just not working at this
Not, yeah, yeah, yeah.
point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We could definitely, talk about that and consider maybe some alternative options. Either, taking a higher dose. I feel like regardless of the milligrams of CBD, that you took, if you pop in 3 and 4 of them and it didn't work, it might be just those gummies don't work for you,
Hmm.
or that um that brand, for
Hmm.
whatever reason. This is not to throw no shade at Martha Stewart
Hmm.
by any means, but it does. I think, when we treat the things that we put in our body, like the people that we bring into our lives,
Ooh.
you know, it start to make a little sense for us, right? Sometimes we have to kind of investigate, what works. There's so many, for example, soaps out there, so many type of soaps, right? And it's like, all right, well, you can buy every bar you like, but it's finding the bar soap that works for you and
Hmm.
your body. For me,
Hmm.
it's Dove.
I mean, it's
It
Dove
works
too.
for me. I don't buy nothing else.
Hmm.
That's just my preference.
Hmm.
Have I tried a couple? Yeah, they cool. They get the job done, but not like Dove for me.
Hmm.
And for my husband, it's like black soap. He's like a shea moisture kind of, person. He won't use anything else. And so it's like, okay, finding that. So Martha might have not have done it for you, maybe 24K, our 24K line of gummies may. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's another company's gummies that we sell do. The goal is to just get you feeling good and better. At the end of
Hmm.
the day, I don't care who you buy your gummies from. I don't care who you buy your CBD from. The goal is for you to feel better,
Hmm.
so let's figure that out. Maybe it's not the gummies and it's maybe how you're ingesting it.
Hmm.
Maybe it's how you're putting it in your body. Maybe the oil might be better, or
Hmm.
maybe popping some of the capsules might be better, or
Hmm.
you'll find maybe cooking your breakfast with it,
Hmm.
is better. Who knows? There's so many, anything can be infused.
Hmm.
Anything can be infused with CBD, so we could definitely, evaluate that, try a couple things, it's not going to hurt you by any means, just trying to find what works for you. And then you would find like that, okay, this is
Balance.
my wellness
Hmm.
plan right here. And note that it can be CBD and something
Oh,
else.
hmm.
That's the thing about wellness plans. I tell people all the time, like, it's just not this one thing. One of the reasons why I developed Hemp and Hill is not only just to educate the community about CBD, in hemp, or even trying to encourage people not to take their medication and, hey, use this holistic regimen. It's not about that. It's about knowing options.
Hmm.
A lot of people in our community, in the Black community, don't know about alternative options. They
Hmm.
have no accessibility to those options. And so my platform for my practice is to make these options accessible. Okay, you don't know about CBD? Let's talk about CBD. Oh, you didn't know about, some of these essential oils. Let's talk about those. Oh, you didn't know what Reiki was. Let's talk about Reiki and how it might help you. What about acupuncture? You know about? No, I don't know nothing about. Okay, well, let's talk about acupuncture. It's about introducing you to all of these other holistic and homeopathic regimens, maybe to add to your medication already, or
Hmm.
maybe to add to your therapy. There might be 10 things that you're doing to keep yourself well, and that's what you got to do. Do
Hmm.
it. Do it. because it's personal. It's personal. So I'll never, encourage anybody to not take their meds or to not take meds. But I think that it's important for you to know, just to educate yourself about, what your options are. And that's my goal, just to get the information out there and then for you to make an informed decision for yourself, but there are options. And unfortunately, for a lot of different reasons, our community is not aware, but we're changing that narrative. Because if anything, you can't say you didn't know.
Right.
So that's the part.
That's exactly why I brought you on today, and I thank you for coming on, because I felt like this information was needed, even for myself. Like I said, like early on when I talked about it, I'm still being more careful about my career path, and like, all right, what am I going to do? How am I going to contribute and help? And so this is one of the ways how I help. I may not be that therapist yet if I decide to go there, but
I'm on over to the dark side. We need you. We need you, right? You already know we already got you on the side.
Right. No, but they were talking about behavioral health too. And I'm like, I never even thought about behavioral health. And, so.
Reg, you would be a hot commodity. Right now, the Black man is you've always been.
Right.
For me, the Black man has always been a hot commodity. Let me just put that out there, number one. But, particularly in the realm of psychology, in those helping services, in the helping professional field, there are not a lot of Black men, right? You experience that yourself when it comes to Black men who, right? Most of the therapists, and this is changing, this narrative is changing. Thank God for, a person knowing a person and bringing them, to the organization and them wanting to, be a part of the mission. But most of the therapists are women, right? And this is not to say our Black men don't want to see a woman therapist. Sometimes a woman is required for a particular client, depending on their issue or their concern. And then sometimes a man is required for therapy. That's just my opinion. Some people work with the opposite sex differently based on their needs. But regardless of that, a lot of our men, from Black men who would like to speak to a Black male therapist. And unfortunately, we kind of like still straining a bit, trying to get, Black male therapists in. And so, when I say there's room for you, particularly in behavioral health, that's an area that's often not touched. Mental health is like, sometimes we put it under the same umbrella, but it's not. If mental health was the umbrella, like behavioral health would be a branch. Counseling would be a branch. Right. When we look at it that way, there's a lot of work to do when it comes to behavior modification and behavioral health and things of that nature. So you'll definitely, regardless of what you choose, we need you over here. I'm not trying to influence. I'm not trying to encourage, but definitely a good field to go into for sure.
And that's I thank you for it, because it's almost, again, that's why I'm happy to hear your career path and how you got to where you got to, because I feel like the doors opened their way for you. As much as you were, again, still going into the law field, you're still on that track, but there's other things. It's almost like Monopoly board. You're collecting all these other things before you pass go again.
Yes, it's crazy, and it's just like I'm learning to just enjoy the ride. You'll hear I say it all the time, especially when it comes to Taz and Zion, Kavana. It's just like, listen, I'm just here for the ride. I'm here to be a part of what I can, when I can, how I can, in no matter way I can. As long as I'm adding to a situation, because I don't want to take anything away. Just like I don't want anybody to take anything away from me. I need people in my life that's adding to me. So as long as I'm adding to an experience, to an organization, to whatever I'm doing, I'm just here for the ride. And so I'm learning to appreciate just coasting, just being able to go from one way to another, being a little bit more adaptable and flexible in my own path. Sure, it doesn't mean you're not going to get there, but you had to take this path first. This path was required. Who knew I would end up here talking to you today? Had I been an attorney, I probably wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe the stars would have brought us together in another fashion. But it's me being able to appreciate your path was required. Your diversion was required. It wasn't to hurt you. It wasn't to harm you. Yeah, you experienced a lot of things on that way, a lot of disappointment, a lot of heartbreak. But guess what? it was required, in order for you to be who you are right now and to hopefully touch another person, let them know you're not the only one. You're not the only one having to deal with, some of the things, unfortunately, life throws us. So it's, I'm just learning how to find gratitude in everything, practice a little bit more solitude, and just appreciate the experience. So, that's just how I am. I'm gonna go with the flow kind of person. So yeah, you know.
Listen, on that note, I'm going to put the link to everything that she has going on down below. It'll be in the notes, the show notes. It'll be in the description. And do you have any final remarks before we close out?
Oh my God. Final remarks. Reg, you are the bomb.
I
You are the
appreciate you.
bomb. Thank you for just being, being you, being transparent, being genuine. I think transparency today is so important. People really want to see real people. Relatability is key. And I think, from the moment, I met you a little eons ago, I think our first fundraiser, right, for Black Men Hill, it was just like you were just an open person, talking about your own experience. And it's just like, if we can just get myself, just to be more transparent, more honest, even if I'm not comfortable with my truth, even if you're not comfortable with it, being uncomfortable, because sometimes we gotta be uncomfortable. But just, I think people can appreciate, genuineness and transparency. And I totally appreciate it. I appreciate you even, considering me for your podcast. We would definitely have to talk off the line about, possibly training me. I started a little YouTube channel with no video yet. Ain't no video on it because I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do that, kind of thing. So, but you are just awesome. I appreciate the experience. And listen, anybody, who's going through something, one of the things that I just want to leave with that I learned in law school, my first semester of law school, I had to go to Minnesota. And so I was back and forth from Philly to Minnesota the whole time I was in law school, right? And so one of the professors, basically kind of gave it to us straight. He was like, this is going to be hard. It's nothing easy about it. It doesn't matter how you're getting your law degree. It's never easy. It's even harder because you're doing it this way. He was like, but all you can do is just keep chopping wood. Keep chopping wood. When you start running out of wood, go find another tree. Keep chopping wood. And for whatever out of this, all this time in law school, I still come back to the fact that you just got to keep chopping wood, right? Because you got to keep that fire burning. You got to keep that fire alive. The moment your fire go out, that's where things, the darkness come. Let's try to just keep the light there. Our fire can be dim. It can get a little low. But we want to make sure that we don't get that fire out. The moment we see it go low, we got to keep chopping wood, add wood to that fire, in order for us to just kind of stay, going, stay alive. It's about survival right now. So just keep chopping wood. I'm chopping right along with you.
That is a gem that will stay with me forever. I promise you that. I may borrow it and
borrow it. Take it. Listen, and I'm gonna check you on your wood pile too. Where your wood at, right?
Yeah,
you got your wood ready. Keep chopping.
On that note, remember, first, like, share, subscribe, and comment. These comments will have these conversations to keep going and keep happening, and I can keep bringing Shar back to have these conversations, especially for the community. And remember that this platform has never been about a replacement to therapy. It's an alternative place where people share therapeutic stories. Thank you for listening.